March 22, 2022, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar. And this indeed is the show you were looking for. How do I know that? You can hear what I'm saying. Anyway, it is Tuesday. It is Tuesday. It should be the second broadcast day of the week here on the Ochelli Effect. But last night I was totally frustrated and a little sun poisoned. So I decided I shouldn't go on and slur and sound like I've got a fever because I had one. Anyway, we're back at it. And I'm glad we are. Tuesdays are going to be different from now on, and I promise you that, but always good stuff. Best I can bring it. Second hour, we're going to talk to an old friend of the show who has not been around in the media lately, but she's been doing other things, and you might want to hear about it, because getting back to basics might be a smart thing to do. Christie Aphrodite will be with us in the second hour. So, in case you don't know who she is, you're going to figure that one out real quick.
And you're listening to the Ochelli Effect at Ochelli.com.
Second hour of the Ochelli Effect continues now at Ochelli.com. Of course, you could be hearing us some other time, some other place, some other way, so welcome to it. Hopefully, we've cleared up part of the problem with people being sent to the Canadian pharmacy site. I'm not sure, but apparently I need a security team to go in and fix the problem with my database because it was hacked. And does anybody want to hear me talk about this? No. All right. Christie Aphrodite is with me. And, you know, it's funny because I a little ways back, you guys might remember, Christie was going to come on and be part of the radio network, and she started to, and then, you know, life got in the way. But maybe it was a good thing because she got to doing some stuff that she needed to do, well, in the real world, not in the metaverse or the, Twitter sphere or on the podcast. I don't know. What do they call the podcast universe? Doesn't matter. Anyway, in real life, she's doing stuff. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff, and it's always good to hear from Christie Aphrodite. How you doing, hon?
Oh, man, I always love being with you. And, yeah, thank you. I was definitely doing stuff I needed to do, and now I have something to talk about, right?
Well, you've been doing some work, right? And
a little bit.
A lot of work. And, Mother Nature cooperated and then didn't cooperate, seems like, for a little bit. But... things happened. So let's pretend like nobody knows who you are, and like, how would you introduce like Christie Aphrodite? Who is this woman?
Dude, I have no clue who I am. Why are you asking me? You're the professional here.
All right, so let me take a stab at it.
So I used to talk a lot of shit, and people used to hate me. And then I went to nature in a nutshell, and nature loves me, and animals love me, and so I love them back, and that's what I do. So basically all day, every day, just honestly building my childhood dream, things that I had always held on to and tried to attain and did mildly, self-sufficient lifestyle and other times in my life, and then thankfully I lost it all and got my ass kicked again, and then I got to go find new ways, and now I'm like living the actual dream, not like what I was before that wasn't really built on a solid foundation, and so.
But what you were doing was learning along the way, and if people don't know, I mean, Christie at certain points was homeless, was so sick that she couldn't walk, couldn't move, right. And had
couldn't form words, complete
words.
A coherent sentence.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to go all the way into that, but sure, yeah, that was the truth of it. But had to heal herself. Did not do it with the standard pharmaceuticals because that just made things worse. She found natural solutions. She tried to feed other people. She tried to do radio shows with different people on different networks and stuff like this. And, quite frankly, she found that some people are not always what they seem, even though she was a trusting and good soul about things. Some people tried to take advantage of her. I mean, that's the truth of it, Christie. I'm not talking out of school here, right? And
right. And it was a little dramatic, but seriously, I am so grateful for every step of the way. It was totally needed. And like I used to, when I would talk about my disability and healing it, I after you're on the other side, I gave thanks for it and knew that I needed that to remind myself who I was. So all of the shenanigans that, here's the thing, and I just absolutely love it, but all that was taken away or purposely all of that, they did me a favor because I got to find a way, right? And you kind of gain a few things in the process. And when you go back to the simple things, and, nature was my healer, thankfully, because I've definitely done the drugs, the surgeries, most of my life, right? And that wasn't working. So I'm grateful for every step of the way, including, you can't have replaced what you're not willing to let go. Right. And so my 30-day journey that turned into 6.5 years of just, most of it me thinking I'll never make it through this. There's videos of me crying saying I'll never be able to do this. But thankfully, life made a liar out of me. And I did make it, and so that makes me even more passionate to share with other people, because I know people are going through a lot of things, and being a single mother in a wheelchair and all of that stuff, you kind of learn how to survive, and not even just survive, because surviving has like a negative connotation these days. They're like, well, I don't want to survive, I just want to thrive. But I'm telling you, I may live at like a poverty income level, but I live like a queen. There is not anything I want for, and I am thriving. And so I hope to be able to share things with people, to help them be more self-sufficient, because it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum or religious spectrum or sex or gender or all of these things that people want to fight about. We have several things in common that are undeniable. Right. And one is that the people we yell at or we're mad at, don't care about us. And two, we all have the same basic needs, right? Food, water, shelter, sunshine, warmth, and love, right? Community.
Well, right. And let me just pause you there for a second, because this is important. I want people to understand, because you start talking about, trauma and all these difficult things that you go through. But here's the bottom line. There is a select number of people on the planet, quite frankly, that are called to be spiritual soldiers. And look, I think of things in a militaristic sense, because I feel as though spiritually that's just what I was granted. And here it is. In the military, what do? They break you down in order to remake you. So if you have been sent here to be a spiritual soldier, that means you must be destroyed before you can reemerge.
Right.
And this is one of the things that, you and I have shared a lot of personal information, so that you and I have some, I don't have all the same experiences as you, but, you and I were definitely in the same neighborhood, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's very simple. You do have to get to a point where you are on your face and all you taste is dirt. And once you get there, you can then rise up. Now, not everybody does.
Right.
And that's the truth of it. And sadly, we've seen people go along the way, that's for sure. But they were not meant to be rebuilt. And when you do that, you can also teach others to not fail simply because they've been knocked down. They may not have been stomped into the mud, but they've been knocked down. And some people can't get back up when they get knocked down. So this is a healing mission. And one of the things that you become proficient at is this self-sufficiency where, listen, if I don't have the stores, the supply chains, okay, what do? I don't have access. I don't have a way to go anywhere. I don't have, well, we know what you do have is nature if you're anywhere near it, unless you're in a concrete jungle, okay?
Right.
And I know about that kind of survival, as do you. But, you know.
A
little bit. It's you know, but I probably spent more time in the concrete jungle than you did.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, but then again, you've spent more time in the woods than I have. So, you know, here we go. Balance, right? I'm not comparing you and me. I'm just saying you and I are speaking the same language, okay?
Right.
So, but being self-sufficient is not something that's just reserved for the people who have to experience complete collapse. It's something to allow yourself to become decoupled from all the stuff that we know is toxic, that we know is poisonous. If you handle it yourself, and I realize, you know, people go, well, it doesn't matter if I grow a garden because they're still spraying stuff over my head. Maybe, but you got a lot more control over it if you're the one planting the seed, if you're the one making your own food, which, again, you can do that almost for free, okay, if you know what you're doing. And almost for free is definitely for me. And it should be for everybody. You should at least have some of these skills. So I'm amazed that you're still motivated after all what you've, you know, gone through. Because, again, even though I understand that, I got to say, I don't know if I could do what you do, where you're trying to heal people and animals and the land, and you're being sufficient and taking care of yourself. And I don't know if I could do all of that myself even, but I recognize the skills. So this is what we're going to talk about today with the next 45 minutes or so. But I want to make sure anybody who maybe did not realize, new listeners and stuff, and I see you brought some friends over to pay attention. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Thank you. You know, because you have a great message, and now I'm just going to turn it over to you and back to this discussion of why it is we need to be self-sufficient. So go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, so I mean, I guess technically for me, it maybe I was implanted with seeds from my grandmother, you know, growing up in the Depression, and she was the first closest person to me. Right. So even as a single mother, you know, paycheck to paycheck, I still, you know, was relatively entitled. You know what I mean? I had homes that even though I was renting, everything worked in them. You know what I mean? I had running water. I didn't have holes in the floor, decent neighborhood. You know, I really was not connected to food or medicine. And, you know, I grew up like everyone else in the suburbs. I thought food came from the store, and if something breaks, you know, you call an expert to fix it. Like, there was no self-sufficiency instilled in me. So by the time I needed it, I didn't have skills, and I wasn't okay with that. And in all fairness to my younger self, I learned every skill I was allowed to learn. For example, like laying tile, I was allowed to do that, but I wasn't allowed to really touch power tools and, you know, things like that. So, you know, I didn't have anyone teach me to fish or wild forage or growing herbs or food or anything. So as far as what my grandmother basically instilled in me, by the time when I ended up in a wheelchair as a single mother without assistance, I had food stored. So it wasn't such a tragedy. Like, I had to go get food stamps or things like that. And I do want to touch on that because, like, in my homelessness, I was gaslighted into, I'm glad other people get help and through government services and things, so I'm not knocking it, but for me, because of my experience and past trauma, that was not something I was ever about to do.
Right.
So I had to find new ways, right? And so when you're a single mom and then all of a sudden you're put in a wheelchair and you're like, how do I feed my children? Well, for me, it was kind of obvious. You start reducing your expenses, right? And especially unnecessary ones like cable. And, you know, by that time we had phones and, you know, the old kind of cell phones. So like, why am I paying 2 phones? And then, you know, okay, food's kind of expensive and this canned and stuff might last me a minute, but I kind of want something delicious and healthy, because obviously in that time when I was in a wheelchair was when I found out that my 40 years, 35 years in and out of the hospital was all due to vaccine damage, and then the 24 different pills and seizures, everything else that subsequently followed. I mean, in a nutshell, I found out that I had been lied to and that the drugs were keeping me sick, not help. And I knew that I was living in a hell and begging to die, like, you know, so
Right.
when I found that out, I basically made that my life mission. And I met a chick that told me how toxic I was, you know, the drugs and pills, stuff like that, and suggested that I make a tea with the dandelions in my yard. And that was the craziest thing I had ever heard at the time. But one batch of tea, and that's why I call dandelions the gateway drug, which led my path to here I am today. So when I left San Diego in a wheelchair, I went to the Ozarks. And so for the past 15, 17, whatever years it's been, I have spent my time trying to build a self-sufficiency, or self-sufficient, I should say, community, and live off the land and learn as many skills as I can, because I never liked the idea of being dependent on anyone. And as a single woman, and I used to be kind of hot, I'm not going to lie, I modeled and acted and stuff like that. But it's easy to become dependent on, you know, whether it's your dad or your boyfriend or doing things for you. And I didn't like that because it always came with strings, right? So anything I did, it didn't matter. Like if my car is getting fixed at the mechanic, I would ask them, you know, to explain it to me in English, or kindergarten language, I should say. And could I watch and could I see? And so I basically did the same thing. So even in my homelessness, I mean, there were times I lived in the city in the van, but there were also times I rented pieces of dirt on farms and other people that I got to build gardens for and such. So the more time I spent in nature, the better I got. And that's why my major healing happened when I built my shelter in the rainforest.
Right.
And so having that connection to nature and cutting out the middleman, I guess I should call my philosophy when it comes to food or healing. The more I tasted of it, the more I had to have. And then, of course, when you heal all these so-called incurable conditions, then I think it's just natural to want to share it with other people that are suffering. And that's not to say that everyone believes it. In fact, most people don't, and that's okay. You know, we all are where we are on our path. But I will say a lot of people that used to not believe Mother Nature is smarter than man are coming to me now. In fact, I literally just got a testimonial from a chick who, she used to work for an infectious disease agency. I'll just say that. And so people are coming around and realizing that there's something lacking in Western medicine. And if that wasn't true, then why are people sicker, right?
Right.
And so I was able to find multiple cures in nature. But let this be said, when I couldn't walk and talk, I made the CIA.gov and PubMed.gov my favorite books, and I freaking read about all the information suppressed on their own websites and all the cures for cancers, which are hundreds, by the way. You know, everyone's looking for this magic pill or this one superfood, and there's hundreds and hundreds. And here's the good news. It's probably some of it, if not even all you need, is growing in your yard right now. So when we find out, as you said, planting a garden, it's close to free, right? And even whatever initial investment, you're just going to keep getting back more and more. So then it's, you know, definitely free, right?
Right.
So if we're walking on our food and medicine and killing our medicine, right? Because they call it weeds. Weeds are just really, it's just slandered medicine.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't need to go into the whys and the whos. I'm sure everybody, anyone listening to your show already knows that there was a concerted effort to divide us from our roots, which is nature, and we are nature. So
Right.
when we're not living in balance with nature, then that's where dis-ease appears. And unfortunately, the people that we've been taught to go to for relief are just compounding the issue. So
Right.
Ozark's Church of Nature and Magical Food Forest is what I'm building, along with I turn all of the medicinal herbs into medicine, and a lot of that can be found at mytrueessence.net, as well as videos on herbs and weeds and how to get started and how to make this and that. And, you know, I'm happy to help anyone anytime, because, look, what I do, yeah, Chuck, maybe I do a lot, but let me tell you, it's not that hard. Anyone can do what I do. I'm, you know what I mean? It's so. I hope that, you know, if anyone has questions or whatever in the text chat, and obviously you, Chuck, or things that we can talk about that can help people get started where they are at, right? Mm-hmm. So whether you're in a city, whether you're in an apartment, whether you're in the country, a trailer park, an RV, it doesn't matter. There is something that everyone can do to be more self-sufficient.
Well, right. And again, like you said, there's useful things all around you. You know, pine needles are useful. A lot of pine trees around people, they don't necessarily know that those are useful. It's funny you mentioned the dandelions, because to me, again, culturally, I was introduced to that early because, you know, Italians putting dandelions on their salads, right? This is something that they always did when I was a kid. Nobody told me that was medicine. See, the weird revelation came to me many years later when some very clever ladies started telling me that your food is your medicine already. You don't realize it, but that's your actual first medicine.
Right.
What you decide to put in your body. And again, there are some things that are healthier in there. I mean, I make jokes all the time, like, how is it that, you know, the fat Italian guy survived so long? Well, between the wine and the dandelions and the garlic, you know, the guy's almost indestructible. What are you going to do? And it's a joke, but it's true.
No, it is true, because the more you're in nature, and I'm talking like in nature, take your shoes off, take your socks off, leave your cell phone behind or whatever. Turn off the, you know, get away from the meters, listen to the sounds of nature. And even that in itself is healing, right? And you're naturally drawn to what you may need. Like, when people ask for help, they'll tell me what condition they have, and I'll say, well, what do you have in your yard? They're like, well, I don't know. So I might go take some pictures. And I had already listed like some herbs that would help them. And then sure enough, they're always, not some of the time, always in their yard. So nature, despite how disrespectful humans generally are, she still keeps giving back to us, right?
Right.
And even as much as you mentioned, you know, poison, you know, what, all the blah, blah, blah.
Well, the chemtrails, the weed killers, the bug sprays, all this stuff is no good for these things, but it doesn't negate entirely what they are. And, you know, before you keep going, I want to say something else here, is that some people might hear this and say, oh, she's one of these isolated, you know, wilderness women. No, you don't have to isolate. See, that's the other interesting thing, is if you pass this along and educate others, and I approve of this entirely, this idea of exchanging what it is you know with other people, right? Now, Christie knows how to handle the plants. Now, let's just say she didn't know how to handle animals, all right? Maybe somebody right down the road does know. So you teach them about plants, they teach you, listen, this is how you take care of your chickens. All right? I'm just saying, if you want to have eggs.
That's exactly how it is here. And that's like when I started Project Love Your Neighbor in 2012, that's what it was about, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed. And people think, like you said, they have to isolate and they have to do every single thing for themselves. Like, really? You're going to grow your wheat, your quinoa, your peanuts, and your tomatoes, and your, you know what I mean? And your beef, and your chicken, and that's overwhelming.
Right.
And so find out, start where you're at, find out what you're good at, do more of that, share it with the neighbors, find out what they're good at, they share it with you, and it's... To me, that's, I mean, my mom used to accuse me of, oh, that's so utopian, as if that's such a bad thing. But in my world, Billy Jack, dude, like, that's exactly what I'm almost, I mean, without fighting the government thing, because been there, done that, I'm done. Yeah. But I do have great high kicks like that, and I do 50 each side every day when I go feed the goats. But, you know, the free school, all the things that I started way back in Branson, and I tell you, with the break in radio and stuff, I wasn't being rewarded online, right? Like, some are real people and friends, and I love to see them. But for the most part, you know, I've been censored for a long ass time, and I got tired of it. So I wanted to build what I had online in real life with real people and real neighbors that talk and live and breathe and come over and eat my food and talk medicine and pick my herbs. And so that's
and just
what
for
I've
60
been
seconds,
doing.
And just for 60 seconds, I want to let people know that, like, Christie was absolutely welcomed onto this little radio network, and you know, we made efforts together to try and get that rolling, but, you know, quite frankly, it just wasn't really coming back to you the way it needed to. And you're still welcome here if you wanted to go back into that. But I think you're doing a lot more good at what you're doing right now. And when it's time, you'll let me know. And
I will. I've really honestly been thinking about like a part-time, like a, you know, even if it's, because I tried to take on too much. And, you know, the system's set up and I'm ready, but again, you know.
Yeah, it's okay, but I'm just saying, if sometime you say, look, I've got to start doing a once a week, like, Christie Aphrodite radio show, you know you got a place to do it already. So, you know, I'm here, and if I got to help you, just let me know best I can from a distance, because we're a few states apart. But you know very well I'll sit there and work with you on this stuff, because I did before. And more than happy to, and definitely value your voice and the stuff that you're talking about right now, especially. And again, here we go. I might have some other skills if I was in your neighborhood that I could add, right? And
exactly,
you can cooperate with people who are like-minded. It's not impossible, okay? Yes, indeed, there are people that are going to try and take advantage of situations, but I got to tell you, if you can get the right sort of circumstances and find that slot where it all makes sense to you, it's all good. You know what? Somebody might be a great cultivator of cannabis in your neighborhood, and that's what they know how to do best. Let them do it and trade with them. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, do what you're good. I believe, honestly, everyone should follow their heart. And this isn't some hippy-dippy rainbow airy fair. You know what? I use guns. I don't miss. I shower. Like, I'm very well-rounded. I build. I can do construction. And, you know, I'm not...
Right.
You know... kumbaya person.
No, and I'm not saying that you're one dimensional.
People who have skills love to share it, right? Just like you do. You know, you're always open to help people with things that you know, and that's the same in any neighborhood, especially old timers. Like, I wanted to learn how to cut hay, and you know, the chicken experts, I go to them. The goat experts, I go to them for advice, and you know, you kind of make your own thing. And of course, I'm the medicine maker, so and magical yummy food. So that's kind of my thing around here. But the thing is about skills, let me tell you something. This whole journey and me, from building my hay bale tent dome to the catio, to the greenhouse, to all these beds, to the chicken coop, I didn't know what I was doing, and I still don't. You know what I'm saying? You just like get out there and do it. And I just ask Spirit to guide me if I have to watch a YouTube video or ask a friend. But generally the land kind of tells me what to do, and I know none of it's perfect. It looks like a third grader did it for the most part. But it makes me smile, and it's functional. And that's all that matters, right? So I think people talk themselves out, oh, well, I could never do what Christie did, or, oh, but you have all these skills. No, dude, I'm learning every single day and learning more. So now I know how to build a deck and a catio, so I'm going to build a greenhouse next. After that, then I'm going to learn how to build a treehouse. And after, you know, so if we're going to, like, survive the new normal, we have to gain skills, we have to be building community, and we have to reduce our dependence on, you know, the people that don't care about us, right? So we can do that by supporting our neighbors first, right?
That is the best way, right? You got to think about it. What was the old phrase? Think globally, but act locally.
Right.
Well, you know, that's a real thing. And if people did it more often, there might be enclaves that don't require a lot of this interference, and not a waiting area where a Walmart needs to drop and build, you know what I'm saying? Because people are taking care of themselves and each other, which is not a bad thing. You know, and I find it funny. You're like, I still don't know what I'm doing and all that. It's too funny. I find that hilarious because there are people that go, I don't know how to run some of the crap that you do. Like, to me, the electronic stuff.
Right.
And you know this because I taught you how to use.
Right, and it still makes my head hurt. And you're just like, oh, this is easy. You know?
But realize I'm the blind guy going, yeah, I'm going to figure out how to work this. I have almost no vision. I'm going, okay, but I was blessed with somebody who taught me, and my attitude is that means I need to teach somebody else if they want to be empowered in that way. So, okay, it's not as cool a thing as, you know, growing your own medicine, but it's still something that, listen, I can offer that skill. You want to be able to get the word out.
It's just as valuable.
So, you know, but that's the thing, is people need to think about it this way, is that, you know, those skills, if you can keep your mind functioning well, are very transferable, and you can not only be empowered in the exchange, because there's always an exchange, learn from the other person. You know, you can do this, you can cooperate, and develop these skills, pass them along, and, you know, at the end of the day, everybody gets to be well-rounded, maybe, if we can maintain it long enough, you know, which is not a bad goal. It's a hell of a lot better than trying to figure out, you know, who it is we should throw into a green uniform to throw into some foreign land to go and kill people they don't even know.
Right.
Okay? Which people occupy a lot of their time with and a lot of resources with.
Right.
To me, this is a whole lot better occupation. So,
yeah.
You know, anyway, I want to get more into this stuff because, I mean, you know, you're growing food and you're doing all this, and you do have a little bit of a crazy cat lady thing going on, though. So
I'm officially, I can't deny it, I'm officially a crazy cat lady now. Definitely.
Well, there was some discussion in the chat room how many cats it takes to be a crazy cat lady. I missed it. The one chatter said that I think she was short by one cat still to be a crazy cat lady, but you're not short at all, are you?
I'm not sure. No, not on any level. But even that, so I mean, if there are crazy cat ladies out there, I just want to save you a ton of pain, okay? And this is getting back to surviving shit. So the litter I used to use was like $40 a bag for a 40-pound bag for the pine. I forget the brand, but I saved a bag still in the closet because, you know, I like to show people this one versus that one. But because like cats are rich people's pets, it's total bullshit. So instead of buying, and the pine litter, I swear to God, is the best. There's no odor. It just dissolves. Plus, it's pine. It turns into shavings, so you can use it to grow shit, right? I use it to perimeter the property, to repel, you know, certain pests, and then I grow shit in them that I'm not going to eat. And, yeah, so if you go to, like, Tractor Supply, or I think there's Tractor Supply pretty much everywhere in the United States, you get the horse pellet bedding. It's the same thing, but instead of paying $40 a bag, you're paying $6 a bag.
Nice.
And it lasts forever. So there is that for my fellow crazy cat ladies. But I want to, yeah, I'd love if people had questions on how they can either, because obviously if we're surviving the new normal, I don't have to tell you that things cost more and they're less available and our healthcare is shit, right? And I mean, I get on my cell phone, I don't even know why, but Google thinks I need to hear about all these food recall alerts and stuff. And I'm like, well, thank God I don't go to those grocery stores. I don't have to worry about that. But at the end of the day, we really need to find what we can't live without and what we can live without. And
okay, so you know what? Let me ask you a specific question.
Without, we have to find a way to make those things possible without the dependence of the beast that is in it for their own benefit, right? Like energy, for example. We know that isn't reliable right now, right? So if you need water to survive, or you need, say, a CPAP machine to sleep at night, or you need, you know, like we need to really look at our needs on, you know, write it down if you have to, and then your wants, you can't live without, and then you know, really I recommend for everyone to go 24 hours without power, right? Because it's better to go without it now and know what you're going to do and how you're going to feed your children or water your pets or things like that, right? Or God forbid if you had a power outage for, say, 2 weeks. In the Ozarks, they've had power outages here for 6 weeks. So imagine 2 weeks. If that, you know, Mother Nature happens, things happen. So we really have to look at these things and how we're going to be able to maintain a semi-normal lifestyle if we don't have all of our luxuries, right? Or we can't just turn on a light or a faucet. What are we going to do?
Well, let me hit you with a specific, right? And I have lived without power for weeks because after Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey, of all places, and believe me, that sucked because I was not prepared at all. But fire became my friend. Just saying, you know, real fast, and thankfully I knew how to make fire. But you know, because I didn't have a generator, nothing. But anyway, here's a specific question, because one thing that I've discovered not too long ago, and I know you're going to laugh at me because it's probably like, you know, I learned my ABCs, Christie. So let me just throw it at you. Right. But, you know, D3, okay, through the COVID reality, a bunch of men about my age, okay, who were discovering that their energy level was bad, they were feeling sickly. I was certainly one of them. I discovered that the D3 was a big help. Now, it helped everybody that I knew, especially men, across the board. But I got to say, a source for it is a little difficult to come by. Now, I try and I get, the nice gels and stuff like that from the store, but is there a way to get that, maybe somewhere else?
So you're talking about just vitamin D, right?
Mainly, yeah, but I mean, I keep getting these D3 supplements, which have helped a lot.
Right.
And,
They do. Okay, so I know a lot of people that high doses of vitamin D and vitamin C have helped people a lot. So,
but see, I wouldn't stick.
Approach,
but I wouldn't. Wait. One thing
sorry.
really quickly though. I would not stick with the high dose of D3 once you get yourself balanced out, because that's something that I also noticed. Again, I don't know if it's just because of this, between 45 and 55 males, but it's one of these things that if you stick with that high dose too long, it starts not working. You got to pull it back a little, but it needs to be a steady supplement because we're clearly not getting enough vitamin D from other sources. So yeah, but the high dose is a good thing to start with, but not to stick with necessarily. I'm just saying.
Right, and there is research that too much vitamin D can cause some serious damage, and that is also research that's been suppressed, but that's for another show, because if we get into that, and we only have 15 minutes left. So,
right.
Okay, so my approach, if I wanted more vitamin D naturally, I would, one, increase my time outside. I would also eat more vitamin D rich foods, which are actually growing in your yard right now, like dandelions, cleavers, chickweed, burdock, or I'm sorry, not burdock, dock, yellow dock, henbits, nettles, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I used to buy a lot of supplements and stuff, and so this is just my approach now. As I said earlier, remove the middleman. Right. So I normally would source what I could in my own yard. That being said, there are some very good supplements out there, and I'll just, I don't even talk to these people because the one I knew is dead, and, I'm not making anything, but I do have to say, because supplements are so hard to find, but Beyond Health, Raymond Francis, he put together really good supplements. And when people were freaking out over that, I went and bought a bag of the crystallized vitamin C and vitamin D powder, right, just so I do have as a backup, right? But also foods like eggs, egg yolks, mushrooms, as you said, make your food your medicine. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, if your minerals are in balance, you're going to crave what you need. So if you're craving eggs, eat them, because that might be why. Or even like oranges are also high in vitamin D, or basically any herb that, if you can look at it this way, if it looks like the sun, so for example, sunflower, dandelions, calendula, they're going to be vitamin D rich.
Okay.
And that's what's so cool about our body and nature and how they're designed the same, because the sun, solar plexus, yellow, right, and your power chakra, those same vitamin D rich food, they all work together, right, to heal and help itself. And plus, berries are super high in that. Also, they have many other brain protective properties and antioxidants and manganese, things like that. But again, you could actually get manganese, potassium, thiamine, all the D's, all the B's, C, K from dandelions, literally, and the whole plant, and it's free, right? So if we want to survive, the new normal, let's say we can't go to the store and get a supplement anymore, then what are we going to do? So I would definitely, as I mentioned earlier, start where you're at. If you have a little yard and you notice there's some weeds growing and you don't know what they are, if you know me, you can ask me. Or you can get like a $20 for a year plant app. What's the Picture This, I think it's called, or Picture It, or I don't know. There's a few, and they're not always right, but most of the time they are, and you can always take a few pictures and then go compare it to whatever you see on Google, but see what's growing in your yard first. And a lot of these roots and things are medicine, right? Queen Anne's lace, I'm sure, grows everywhere. Wild grapes, things like that. I know, if you're in like a city, then you want to be a little bit more careful where you're picking your herbs, right?
Right.
But as long as you have your own little patch of grass, then, whatever you do is going to be better than what you can get elsewhere, right? So if you do see some dandelions, even if you don't feel like drinking a dandelion tea that day or making a dandelion tea that day, pick a few and dry them, because you might need them in the winter. Or mullein leaves or something that can solve. I'll tell you what, I'm probably not allowed to say this, but that C word going around, everyone I know, and it's like I need more than 2 hands to count and higher, cured it, right, with products I make and weeds, basically, and then pain be gone, and a little echinacea. Mullein grows almost everywhere, and it's respiratory medicine. It's been respiratory medicine since the beginning of time. In fact, up until, like, I guess a little over a century ago, that was all respiratory medicine. And if you want to treat your lungs, inhaling it is better than taking a pill or injecting it or whatever, right? And there's not one single person that I've met that's had a cough, pneumonia, bronchitis, or the C word that has not smoked that, and sometimes with other herbs, that their cough and headache and congestion and pain was gone instantly. And I have a lot of practice with this, so I'm not just talking shit. You know what I mean?
No, I understand. And
I don't know how I could say any more than I really have over the past 17 years, but if right now is a pretty crucial time to be as self-sufficient as we can. And if dandelions are too harsh for you, you know what I mean? Then grow basil, or pick your purslane, or cleavers are delicious, or sorrel is delicious, or, and things like, let me tell you, kale or mustard greens or things like, they grow themselves, So don't talk yourself out of not having a green thumb or all of these things that people say, right? Because we're not doing it. Nature's doing it. And we're just providing a space and hopefully nourishing it with gratitude and love. But yeah, nature does it. In fact, my whole food forest, the only things that have been planted like specifically are the trees, berries, and grapes. Okay. Everything else was left to nature. And food that I have coming up today were planted over a year ago. So, and that, if you, just to kind of touch on that briefly, would kind of be known as pre-seeding, right? So a lot of people, you can, so say your tomato, let a tomato wilt, for example, on your tomato plants in the summer and let it die there. And at the end, just stick it in the dirt and then see what happens, right? And that's actually, believe it or not, turns out to be a little more effective, because when we're planting them in the seedlings, we want to rush it. That first beautiful day of spring, we're like, oh my God, I got to plant my tomatoes, or I got to plant this or that. And I do it every single year, and I get caught with my pants down and like a late freeze, or, and I know better than that, right? But you still want to try to force and be Mother Nature anyways. But if we let her do it, and those seeds are in the ground, they naturally come up when it's right for them. So
Right.
that's why the plants are even healthier. And like the kale and other greens and things growing now, I have parsnips and peas, and those were planted, I don't even remember, because each plant I always let seeds dry on there, and then I just toss them, and then I let nature do it. So gardening, growing your own food and medicine really is not as complicated as we make it, right?
Right.
And nature doesn't grow in rows, neither should we.
There you have it. And again, before we run out of time, mytrueessence.net is a great resource to go to. And you can learn about a lot of the stuff that you've just heard, okay, right there. But also there are products there too. But it's a learning experience. And even with the products, quite honestly, it's a learning experience. And I would much rather, give some money to you, okay, or to whoever is coming up with this. And I've told you before, I've worked with some different people that have done some really amazing things, and have found more often than not that there is a solution. You just got to know how to find it, and it is right there in nature waiting for you to just pick it up.
Right.
And that's all there is to it. But mytrueessence.net, that's a place to go. And I put it in the chat room. I'm going to include it in the show links after you see all the other links. I always give reference links. But, you also have ChristieAphrodite.com, and that obviously links to the other. I don't know how much is going on that website lately because I haven't been there.
Nothing. But the player's still there. I think it was over September 2020, it looks like, was my last post.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
But it is a full-time job. It's like under 13 acres, but springs, and I'm going to keep building it because I know that this is my mission. I know that I'm going to be an integral part of the local community food system. I mean, already our nearest grocery store is a 45-minute drive.
Right.
And that grocery store, there's no such thing as organic, and you're lucky to find a head of lettuce.
Well, and you know what the old argument is, that they all have, a little health food section. And so just ask yourself, if they're willing to mark this little tiny section over here with the overpriced stuff as health food, what is in the rest of the store? See, because if that's specifically the health food, and I'm not saying I trust that even, what's in the rest of the store? The non-health food. Okay,
right.
So, maybe that grocery store needs to stay 45 minutes away. And I understand, look, it's not easy, again, in the concrete jungles, to necessarily, but there are ways of doing that as well. I've tried to have people on to discuss that. It's a little harder, not everybody is good at coming up with organic stuff in the middle of cement.
Right.
It's difficult.
But you know what? Dandelions will grow in the cracks. And I know we're out of time, but I just also want to say, just so even if we're just planting seeds for a couple little herbs, dandelions are proven to cure cancer.
Right.
They're a blood cleanser, your kidney, your liver. They are literally, it's criminal how suppressed they have become. And with that one little plant, you can make skincare, you can make food, you can make medicine, you can make a tincture, right? And then you have your cold medicine or immune booster for the winter or whatever. So, and again, all of these things are super simple. So if anybody does have specific questions, ask me. And about My True Essence, I just want to say, I do make special orders if you're looking for something specific. I have way more than what's on the website, but I do have my own essential oil line now, right, and infused oils in addition to the skincare, pain cream, cancer cure, all of that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And since I'm not allowed to tell you, the federal government can, and the testimonials and the pictures can. So there's that.
And
but
I can tell you,
anything I do, you all can do. And if you need help, like designing your gardens or planning like a permaculture type thing, I am always happy to assist.
And, I have actually gotten a few of these things myself from Christie and can tell you that they do work. And look, not everything is perfect the first time out, by the way. Don't get discouraged if you get something and it's like, well, that seems about right. Everybody's a little different too, Christie, right? So, sometimes you need a little more of this, a little less of that. So the idea that, maybe sometimes things need to be customized.
Right. And I do that. And that's why like I said, I have way more medicine on hand because I do it every single day and I'm just filling up the jars or infusing the oils or all of that. But in fact, there was recently a guy he was super skeptical, but Spirit told me to send him a sample. And I forget the name of the condition, but it sounds very painful down below in the male parts and stuff.
Right.
And he said that was the first thing that helped him. And he asked if there was something else I would suggest. And I said, well, this thing might hurt. And he's like, well, that's okay. I kind of want it to burn. I'm like, well, let me just make you one just for you then. So,
right. And look,
so I can do that for anyone.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. So yeah, reach out to Christie. She can help you out for sure. With a lot of stuff, and it also helps if you get into it and you actually tell her everything that's going on. Okay.
Yeah, like don't leave anything out because I don't want to recommend a herb that will kill you, and it is factual that certain medications can, like for example, if you're on like Coumadin or warfarin or one of those, if I tell you to take white clover for your heart or even garlic or grapefruit,
yeah,
I could kill you. So yeah, if you do come to me for help, please do not lie, do not leave anything out, and it'll help me design like one thing for you instead of, oh, you need this, you need that, you need to that's bullshit.
Right.
So yeah, and I also just want to say I'm not just trying to sell stuff, I want to genuinely help. So I want to empower you and teach you how to do what I do. And if, you work 1,000 hours a week and you don't have time, then I'm honored to do it for you. But most importantly, I believe that empowering community and people to do more for themselves that's my ultimate goal.
Absolutely. So again, Christie Aphrodite, and look, if you want to come back on soon and have fun, maybe we could have a discussion about psilocybin.
I do. I want to. Yes, let's talk about sacred plants.
I would love to, and of course, I'm more than happy to talk about how that again. There's 4 guys that I know listen to this show that I owe my life to because they made sure that I was able to get that medicine when I really needed it, and I am still alive and kicking because of it. Anyway,
I love it.
Stick around and listen to this next little clip that I'm going to play at the very end of the show. But Christie Aphrodite's all done. Thanks to Addie Ads for being with me in the first hour. The Ochelli Effect is finished. I am merely Ochelli. All of you are indeed the effect. Good night.